Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are advised that the following program contains images, voices, and names of deceased people.
I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waters throughout Australia. The Wathaurong people on the Bellarine, where sovereignty has never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We recognise the past atrocities against Aboriginal peoples of this land, and that Australia was founded on the genocide and dispossession of First Nations people. We pay our respect to elders past and present, and acknowledge their continuing relationship to this land and the ongoing living cultures of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across Australia. We're cooking with gas. I can hear some people. Been busted. That's a disappointment. Hi, it's Peter, and welcome to SquattAus. Hey everyone, welcome back to SquattAus. Hope you've liked and subscribed.
Today I've come out to the western side of Drysdale to visit one of the oldest and finest homesteads in Victoria. It's called the Corriel Mansion.
Now, it was built by a squatter and her partner, Anne Drysdale and Caroline Newcomb. Today we're going to find out about them. I just thought I'd wander past because after the original owners, they took ownership of it as squatters. We're going to find out about that today. But just over there is the town of Drysdale, and it's named after Anne Drysdale, who lived in this big mansion. Today, we're going to learn about Anne Drysdale, and I've got a stealth camp which I'm looking forward to. This is the bottom corner of the Corriel Mansion property. It's private property, so I won't be going on there. And I know the owners, they're lovely people. But it's private property, and it wouldn't be squatters if they knew I was there.
Check out that eagle, or as the traditional custodians would say, Bunjil.
He's on his way to find his dinner. And you know what? I'm on my way to find my dinner tonight. And here, it's the last remnants of some farming. It's suburbia in the background. Nearly there, the Corriel shops. So this part of the area isn't called Drysdale, it's called Corriel. And we'll talk about Corriel in a future episode, but we're going into the Corriel shops on what was sheep farming land until only 10 years ago. Yeah, so let's go get some lamb. You got a QR in to get in, but here we go. Oh, this is the last one. Must meant to be. Grab one of them. And I got my Powerade. Some thick mint sauce. The lamb. Okay, the shopping's done. Now off to the campsite. Let's go. Nice little walk through suburbia. Oh wow, I didn't even notice. Oh, look at this. I saw the eagle before, and now there's... Hang on, I'm going to flip this around. We saw the eagle before, and look, there's a little plaque. That's Mindy. Bunjil the eagle is the creator and spiritual leader of the Wadawurrung people. He told Mindy the giant snake to keep the law and to punish the people if they did not obey his rules. Mindy could make himself big or small. He could climb a tree, hold onto a branch like a ringtail possum. He could stretch his body across a great forest. Mindy lived in a waterhole near Bakarabunnel, which is far away in the northwest. If they knew he was coming, the Wadawurrung people would quickly run away, for they knew what Mindy would do if he caught them. The Aboriginal word Wallamai means look around you, keep your eyes open and keep watch. So Wallamai, look around because he's watching. Wallamai. Wow, that's kind of appropriate for squatters, don't you reckon? Oh look, I've come across some more Aboriginal art. The Wranglebeck Aboriginal heavens in the night sky. Look at that. Cool. So the Koori night sky, the Wadawurrung tribe are part of the Kulin nation. The creation of the Kulin land and all its people was the work of the great ancestor spirit known as Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle. As I usually do, I dropped off my swag earlier to avoid suspicion when I arrive now, but it's still too early to set that up, so for now I'm going to find a quiet spot and grab a cup of coffee. The billy on. Yep. So while we wait for the billy to boil, let's find out about Anne Drysdale. Anne Drysdale was born in Kirkcaldy in the Royal Borough of Fife, just north of Scotland's capital, Edinburgh, on the 26th of August, 1792. The name Kirkcaldy means the hard fort. Kirkcaldy is the home of Ravenscraig Castle, originally built for James II's wife Mary of Guelders in 1460. But unfortunately the king died in battle and the fortified castle was only partly built and used as a widow's home for Mary until her death 3 years later. Anne was the youngest of 5 children of William Drysdale, the town clerk of Kirkcaldy, Fifeshire. Anne's mother was also the daughter of the town clerk of Hamilton. The family also had links to the church, law, the civil service and the East India Company, a well-connected and very influential family. However, as the case with most women of her time, Anne's early years are not well documented. It's assumed she grew up at the Drysdale estate at Patuka, near Kirkcaldy. Whether Anne had any marriage prospects when she was young is not known, but she had her own income from sheep farming.
was well educated, strong-minded and fiercely independent, all attributes unlikely to appeal to the conservative suitors in her circle. It seems the city lights of Edinburgh did not attract her either, and she much preferred the countryside, being keen on farming. For some years she leased a farm of her own in Ayrshire and lived with the Hoose and Crawford family in the castle of Crawfordland. As the town clerk, Anne's father, William Drysdale, had the job of registering all the births, deaths and marriages of the region. Before the mid-1840s, Scotland, like England, had a system where the local Church of Scotland, the Presbyterian Church, rather than a government office, made the records. The Church and State were interconnected with 4 levels of regional governance: the General Assembly, the Synod, the Presbytery, and at a parish level, the Kirk Session. Under the direction of the parish minister, the parish church community chose male elders who were charged with ensuring that the word of God was purely preached, the sacraments rightly administered, discipline imposed, and ecclesiastical goods incorruptly distributed. So this meant, as well as maintaining civil order and keeping good records, the laws of God were maintained. As well as influential church-going parents, Anne also had a brother William, who was the Edinburgh city treasurer and was knighted in 1841-1843. The family was deeply respected, entrenched into high society and respected amongst the church community. At the time, if your marriage wasn't recorded, then your inheritance to family property could not be secured. Anne was from a wealthy family and surely would be well looked after. But what if Anne chose to make choices which the church frowned upon? What if Anne found love in a woman? Unfortunately, at the time, being homosexual was forbidden to the church. To be homosexual brought shame to the family. But more importantly, what inheritance would she lose, as she couldn't be officially married and recorded on the marriage register? Through their Southeast India and civic connections, the Drysdale family would have known influential millionaire George Mercer from Edinburgh. George was involved in the establishment of the Port Phillip Association and the formation of this new colony known as Port Phillip. What if Anne's family loved her so much they decided to help her live the life she chose in this new colony, where she could have her own land, her own love, and make her own destiny? So it began. George Mercer and Charles Swanson arranged for Anne Drysdale to travel to Port Phillip, and she paid her own way, with the assurance of George Mercer, and reached Melbourne on the Indus on the 15th of March 1840. In the May, squatter and colony doctor Alexander Thompson of the property Cardinia in Geelong helped Anne secure the Burrungoop licensed sheep run of 10,000 acres, 4,047 hectares. That's over 4,000 football fields in size. But even though Anne had come to Geelong, she still didn't have her own land. She didn't have her choice of love. But she had one thing she hadn't had for so long: hope. There we go, so I got the Makona ready to go and on the boil. Let's go. Hot water in here. Oof. So what did you think? Anne Drysdale so far. Interesting story, isn't it? And there's still so much more to come. Shortly I'm going to get cracking on dinner, and then while we're doing that we can find out about the next bit. There's a road just there. There's people walking by, and it might have quietened down over that other side. So we might head over there and cook up the lamb. Hack this up and
head over to the other side again. I hope you're enjoying Squatters. Please write in the comments what it is you love about it or what you don't like about it. Happy for any constructive feedback. Also, what would you like to see more of? If you are a local on the Bellarine or in Geelong and you have an ancestor that was a squatter, maybe we should do something on your ancestor and find out about them. But starting to paint a really interesting picture. And I think this is my 4th squat now. And I'm really loving doing the research. I'm loving getting outside, and I'm loving what I'm discovering. So it's cool, and I'm glad that you can come on this journey with me. So the main park thoroughfare is through there. There's also a thoroughfare through here, but the main kind of thoroughfare is that side of the track. But obviously people and dogs and whatever come through here. So, yeah, there's going to be people that come, I'm sure. And if I get caught, well, the stealth is a failure. It's not. But hey, this looks like a perfect place and a quiet place for dinner. I've got the garlic infused oil. First one. Here's the second one. Oh. We're cooking with gas. While we wait for those cutlets to cook, let's find out more about Anne Drysdale and this area of the Bellarine. In the early 1840s, the colonising of Port Phillip was well underway. The greedy squatters had traversed across Port Phillip, taking as much land as possible, leaving destruction in their wake.
That killing time, it was painful. The first killing came to the trees on the foreshores. Then the white man brought in their horses, their cattle. With the introduction of these new things coming into our land, it disturbed the naturalness of that time. Our native species stayed away from where they would normally go to drink. But our hunting skills was developed from them coming to a regular feeding place, regular drinking place, which made it easy for us to live off those animals. Once we realised that it was easier to get the introduced species, our people went that way, just to survive. From that period, we supposedly was breaking the law. But to us it wasn't breaking the law, it was taking from my land what was rightfully mine. Then came the murder. Our mothers, grandmothers, daughters, murdered and raped. So many men fought, so many men died. Many elders, many men lost. Instantly, thousands of years of wisdom gone.
It was into this horrific and painful time Anne Drysdale arrived. Her host, Dr. Alexander Thompson, although a distinguished gentleman, had already been involved in multiple Aboriginal massacres around Port Phillip, the most infamous being the Mount Cottrell massacre. Whilst he never admitted to being a member of the Port Phillip Association,
He was a shareholder and benefited financially from the Port Phillip Association's hostile actions. He was extremely wealthy, and as the doctor for the colony, it was in this distinguished position he was able to take Anne under his wing. It was here she also met John Batman's governess Caroline Newcomb, who was also in Thompson's care. The two hit it off immediately. With the help of Dr. Thompson in August 1841, Anne moved with Caroline Newcomb into a new cottage homestead between the Barwon River and what became the present St Albans Stud. A firm friendship developed from the business partnership. Whilst Anne became a squatter, history shows these women cultivated a God-fearing, energetic and independent partnership which modelled a different reality to what was going on around them. Being two women in a region overrun with ex-convict men meant they were at risk of personal attack. The Geelong Advertiser makes multiple reports that the women were in court after men had stolen horses from their estate. But despite these setbacks, they continued to ship wool back to London and make their fortune. In 1843, the two women enlarged their interests by acquiring the Corriel run on the Bellarine Peninsula. Then in 1848, they obtained the freehold they coveted and commenced building their fortified Scottish castle known as the Corriel Mansion. Melbourne architect Charles Lang designed this home, a beautiful mansion with cast iron window frames and half-metre thick walls kept them safe. These strong women were not to be messed with. In their basement there were slats in the walls for shooting intruders with their muskets. We don't know if Anne Drysdale registered to be part of the Yeoman Infantry. I can't imagine she did. But there certainly is evidence that their property was used to assist the police. They even had a jail in their basement, which is now a wine cellar. It was here these brave women were able to live out their faith of sharing the love of their God Jesus. We can't possibly imagine what life would have been like at this time, the emotional trauma for our First Nations people, but also the emotional trauma of these squatter women. Anne and Caroline did what they could to protect these women, even taking in the half-caste offspring to keep them safe. But even doing this, they faced resistance from their own employees, usually ex-convicts. The Geelong Advertiser reported how one of these half-caste girls was lured away by one of their male employees, and the police later arrested the man and got the girl safely back home. It is also reported that Anne and Caroline supported the Wesleyan Aboriginal Buntingdale mission by donating sheep. Mission leader Francis Tuckfield reported that the donated sheep helped create a working farm to support the Indigenous in the area, providing work and food for them.
You put me in an institution with a new spirit teaching. You learn this thing about this Jesus thing. But hang on, why did you do those other things to me? Because this Jesus isn't saying what you're doing. Jesus said, love one another. But that's what we did all the time. The white people took me away from that. Jesus said, have compassion. I had that too. But you imprisoned me for that. I'm in your institution, being taught from you about our spirituality, about our current path, which is in conflict with the way you're living and what you're doing. We call that rama, madness. You saying one thing and doing another. And another thing that I picked up too, in what you was teaching me? This is your words. Thou shalt not kill. You think I'm silly?
Anne knew what it was like to be an outcast. Having empathy for the Indigenous would have broken her heart. But now she had finally found love, she found independence, she found happiness, and did her best to share this with others. But despite these efforts to be kind and caring to the region's Indigenous, the minority voices like Anne and Caroline were drowned out with the violent and savage actions of the early squatters and the ex-convicts. But just like back in Scotland, King James II's wife, Mary Gilders, Anne Drysdale lived in her castle, the Corriel Mansion, for 3 years, before she died on the 11th of May, 1853. Caroline went on to live for another 20 years before being laid to rest in the grounds of the Corriel Mansion alongside Anne. But later both bodies were removed and laid in the Eastern Cemetery in Geelong, where you can visit them today.
Getting a taste of what it would be like to be an early squatter in Australia. Oof. Except, I think there probably would have been a lot more fear. There would have been a lot more unknowns. They wouldn't have known the animals, they wouldn't have known the Indigenous people, they wouldn't have known the customs or anything. It would have been so scary. The noises at night would have been different to what they were used to in England. But I'm really looking forward to being out tonight. It's going to be a beautiful night, I think. Here's my cutlet. Pretty awesome. We'll just leave it to sit on the plastic tray for a minute. Here we go. Put some mint sauce on that one. Here we go. Gosh, that's good. I love lamb. Just hopefully it's still here. I dropped this off earlier today, hoping it hasn't been found. No, it hasn't. There it is. I can hear some people. Okay. Time to, I'll just go.
been busted. People came past. Busted. Well, that's a disappointment. So if I stay here, they're going to go tell their friends or their family, hey, there's a dude camping in the park. So I think I might have to call it in. I might have to say, I think we're done. That's such a bummer. Such a bummer. Anyway, that sucks. It was so good. Such a great spot, and they walked past and saw me. So I might give it another half an hour or an hour, and if they come back, then I'll go. But for now, I'm just going to sit tight and look up at the stars. Look at that. It's starting to emerge. If you're enjoying this episode of SquattAus so far, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And Drysdale is an amazing story. I'm all set. It's pretty dark. I've decided to stay, so I'm just going to stay and see how I go. But yeah, time to get into bed, I think. It's 20 degrees tonight, so it's going to be pretty warm. Anyway, let's hope no one comes back tonight to have a go at me. But anyway, I'm going to head to hay, and we'll see you in the morning. Good night, guys. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just waking up because it's so hot. You can't see, but looking straight up, you can see the Southern Cross and the 2 pointers and everything that was on that picture today. On the way back from Corriel, you can see up in the sky, and it shows you how to find direct north. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. Oh. Good morning, everyone. It's like 5:30 in the morning, and I had an amazing sleep. I had like 6 hours sleep. It was so good. And I'm gonna pack up now, and despite having those 2 girls come past and see me last night, no one else came back, and I had an amazing sleep. So I'm glad I didn't just leave. You can just imagine though, the early settlers, how scary it would have been to just be settling and people coming, and it must have been crazy scary. So it wasn't scary for me. No one came back. Well, all packed up, ready to go. So I've stashed my gear under that tree there. I'm gonna go and make a coffee back to my spot. Beautiful. Truly the best time of day. Anyway, our ride's nearly here, so I might say goodbye. I'll see you next time. Campsite is completely spotless. No rubbish. The world is coming back to life. See, the joggers are up and the dog walkers. And I'm just a little backpacker here. Could even be a person about to go to work. Well, I will be going to work. And here's my ride. Woohoo!